All right. Thanks again for joining all. My name's Kim Travis. I'm the Affordable Rental Housing Division Engagement Coordinator, helping to facilitate the monthly partner call. We appreciate you taking time to join us today. And let's see, we'll go ahead and launch in. We like to begin these meetings with just a reminder about fostering an inclusive environment. Please stay engaged, speak your truth responsibly, listen to understand, be willing to do things differently and experience discomfort, expect and accept non-closure. Thank you for continuing to practice these agreements and help foster an inclusive environment. With that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Roberto to kick us off and cover. We've got a full list of topics today, as you can see.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Last time I said fall is going to be here soon, and it's already here. So that was, anyway, about 20 plus days ago when we had this partners call. But it's great to have you here joining us and for us to be able to share with you what's happening and what the kind of work that is we're trying to get off or complete or start any of those phases in there. As Kim pointed out, there are several items that we would like to share with you this afternoon. Probably first, as it's our practice, just giving you a heads up of what's coming at the House and Stability Council meeting this Friday. We do have several transactions, about 8 projects that are getting recommended for approval for bond financing. All but one are being recommended for 4% in private activity bonds. Many of these are projects that we recommended or got under reservation of funds back in April or May, and now here they are for the second set of approval for the bond financing. And these are planned to be closed within the next couple of months, and for sure before the end of the year, which is the commitment that we had asked partners to work with us, that in getting reservation of funds for 4% in particular, that we should be able to close them before the end of the year, and so that we can start construction soon after. Along with the 4% in private activity bonds or bond financing, we also have 5 ORCA-related projects or projects that have gone through the process. And as you see, if you've been able to look at or take a peek at the packet for the council meeting this Friday, of those 5 projects, 2 of them are 9%. So they're going for a recommendation for the gap funding. One is a 4% in lift. One is a preservation project, and the other one is a PSH project. So as you can see, we're making our way through the funding and the smaller buckets that we have for funding for the ORCA for this year. So I can stop there, but again, that's what's happening at the council meeting, along with a memo or a briefing about preservation and PSI at the council meeting that I think we're going to have an opportunity to hear a little bit more during this call. So with that, I'm going to stop there as it relates to the Housing Stability Council meeting coming up.
Yeah, and I'm going to put the the link to the Housing Stability Council packet in the chat so you can reference that as we continue through our topics for today. Did you want to highlight, Roberto, some of the items in the ORCA memo, or are we going to just cover that kind of throughout the meeting?
Well, let's try to cover them up here at the meeting. Yeah. So yeah,
Okay,
then which that way we can focus and give it all the time that we can today. Yeah.
that sounds great. Okay. All right, I'll resume the slide deck here. And we are going to talk about upcoming capacity building resources. So resume the PowerPoint. We will move to capacity building and then talk about some legislative implementation updates after that. So turn it over to, Kim Ye. There we go.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kimie Weoka. I am the capacity building analyst for this, excuse me. I haven't presented in so long, I'm out of practice. Sorry. For the Affordable Rental Housing Division. Um, I am so excited to share with you that we have reserved an additional 2 million for the ORCA capacity building grants in this biennium. Those are going to be available very soon. And a little bit about this offering, we have set aside 500,000 to support regional and innovative capacity building projects. And for the very first time ever, we are making capacity building funds available to certain local governments. And in this case, it's local governments that are seeking to build a MURL program and access the MURL resources. And so we have built in a pathway and eligibility for those sponsoring jurisdictions to receive capacity building resources to support accessing the MURL program. Oh, sorry. Thanks. Thanks, Kim. That's the moderate income revolving loan program that also benefits sponsoring jurisdictions in seeking to build housing, affordable rental housing as well. Let's see, important dates that I could share with you right now. TA will be going out soon, I believe in the next couple of days, that will formally announce the resource is coming. Next week on October 7th at 2 p.m., we'll be offering an info session webinar, and that TA coming out on Wednesday will have a link to register for that webinar. And then on October 8th, we are opening the grant application for the capacity building grants. And that is accessed through the ORCA intake form. All of this will be really clearly laid out within information that will be available on the capacity building webpage. And I can drop a link to that webpage in the chat. We're in the process of updating all that information on there right now. So stay tuned. And then like the last offering, the application will just remain open until all of the funds have been allocated. So we're really excited to have an additional reservation of funds for this work. And I'm looking forward to sharing more information with you soon about the program.
Thanks, Kim Ye. Do we have any questions for Kim Ye about the capacity building grant? Please feel free to use the chat or raise your hand, and we'll take a few questions or continue moving on, and we can take questions throughout this meeting as well. Let's pause for a second. All right, and Kimye is going to put a link in the chat for you all. And again, if you have questions, feel free to use the chat or raise your hand. We'll keep moving along. Next up, we're going to transition into some updates about legislative implementation, and we're going to turn it over to Heather Gramp to talk about preservation and stabilization funding.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heather Grant, Preservation Manager. I'm happy to talk to you about preservation and stabilization today, especially about our property stabilization investments program, which, like capacity building and other things you'll hear about today, is going to be opening really soon. So OHCS has preserved over 13,000 units since 2006. And we know, of course, the demand is still there, and we know the demand is probably greater than ever, and that preserving units is cost effective. We are continuing to try to be nimble and implement programs to meet the need. And that's, I think, what you'll see today with our PSI offering that will be opening soon. So I think many of you know by now that the legislature allocated 50 million in lottery revenue bonds for preservation and stabilization in the 2025-27 biennium. The governor's office is supporting the funding plan that you see here on the slide to be most responsive to what we heard very strongly and consistently during the session, that our partner's top priority was the urgent and significant threat to affordable multifamily properties due to unprecedented financial cash flow issues. And so that is why you see more investment going to property stabilization investments. So just a little on the details here. We have 15 million in preservation. I want you to know that most of this is already accounted for from our existing preservation wait list, and 2025 9% LIHTC projects, which we moved 3 preservation forward. We are holding out some amount of the funds for 2026 9% LIHTC projects. And as a reminder, our QAP does have a 25% set aside for preservation. And then after that time, depending on the resources available, of course, we would like to see some resources where possible be available for as gap funding for 4%. For PSI, the 35 million that is available, I'll talk more about because it's a little bit of a different program. Note that there is a $20 million set aside for nonprofit organizations, as well as a $5 million set aside for culturally specific organizations. And those, we know that this may be a resource with a lot of interest, that those set asides will be held open for 6 months. And if there are funds remaining at the end of the 6 months, they will be generally pooled and available to any applicant that meets the PSI criteria to apply. Next slide. Okay, as I said, the focus today is just to go with PSI for the next couple slides ahead of this opening for application intakes, which will be October 8th. In broad brush strokes, I wanted to just let you know some of the key changes. I think some of you are probably familiar with our former PSI program, and it has changed substantially in that it's not an iterative process of support working with your asset manager around a property improvement plan. We're really trying to release this, as I said, to be nimble and responsive, and we see it as a rapid resource offering that is streamlined, as you will see. The focus is on financially distressed properties. So again, aligning with what we've heard from partners. The uses are to buy down senior lender debt, reamortize the loan, and improve the monthly cash flow and debt coverage ratio. There is availability for funds to be used for repairs, but the primary use is debt buy down. In other words, funds are not for major rehab. We're interested in funding repairs that are, life safety, and especially if you have offline units, obviously bringing those back online through repairs that can improve the cash flow as well. So those are the kinds of repairs that we'll be looking to fund. It's not for major capital improvements, major rehab. So note that for the debt buy down, I'll just say it's a 0 to 1% interest loan with a 30-year term, and that this resource can also be combined with OHTC and 4%, which you're going to hear about OHTC after I speak. The criteria, which I'll get into in a couple of slides here, importantly, that it does need to be an OHCS portfolio property. We're very interested. It must be a property that you can describe as being at risk of loss in the 25-27 biennium. And we have substantially changed the PSI to, as I said, that to be a resource offering that's rapid, it has very specific metrics that are our criteria for whether you're eligible for funding or not. In terms of the application, this is also going to be through ORCA. This is another change. Instead of starting with your asset manager, you would submit an intake through ORCA, and there's a PSI application that's a short narrative, a workbook, that's an Excel workbook where you would input and calculate many of our criteria to speak to many of our criteria. And then we will be asking you for quite a few uploads, but these are standard items that you should have readily available, like financial reports and property reports, rent rolls, and those sorts of things. And it's important to note that with the senior lender debt buy down, the application requires the participation of your lender. There are some things in the application, such as letters of interest, and asking them to share property information, confirming at the stage of application that they really will accept the buy down and re-amortize the debt. And maybe it'll be good news for many of you that this is streamlined from the standpoint that since rehab is not really a main purpose of this, it's really about that financial distress. There's no property improvement required to be submitted as part of the application. There's no capital needs assessment and things that if you had done this in the past, like bids on all the scope of work, et cetera, that is not required. And we're also not requiring a market study. So we're trying to help you move rapidly to meet this need. I think that's it. Next slide. Thanks, Kim. Okay, the primary requirements for eligibility that you must meet all of these are that it is an OHCS portfolio project. The project is at risk of loss in the 25-27 biennium. The debt coverage ratio has been below 1.0 for at least 12 consecutive months, but that can be stabilized to reach 1.15 or greater for at least 5 years after stabilization investment, and that has to happen within the amount that we are able to invest. And that is to be done without needing to raise tenant rents more than 5% per year in the preceding 5 years after the investment. Next slide, please. In addition to the primary eligibility requirements, there's also financial distress indicators, and these are very important. 2 or more are required. The expenses as a percent of income should be more than 70%. The operating reserves are under 3 months expenses. The accounts payable are over 120 days past due and at least $25,000. Your economic vacancy calculations you'll be submitting to us show greater than 10% for at least 6 months, and that you have insurance and or property tax delinquencies. So you would meet any two of those 5 to be eligible for the application, and we would proceed from there. Next slide, please. Okay, the investment limits, which I'm sure all of you are interested in, is a maximum per project is 2 million or 25,000 per unit, whichever is less. Within that, it's for the rehab, it's 50,000 plus, so not or, but 50,000 plus 5,000 per unit for repairs and deferred maintenance. And then we are allowing an administrative fee of up to 50,000 or 3% of the loan amount, so the lesser of those as well. Those 2 bullets, those smaller bullets, are optional and fungible depending on how much debt buy down the applicant needs. Some applicants may wish to forego repairs and even administrative fee altogether if that's the debt buy down that they need. So just wanted to call out that those smaller bullets under the maximum are within the 2 million, and so it's up to the applicant to sort of determine what your mix of funding request is. And the award amount, though, is that which gets you to 1.15 debt coverage ratio. The portfolio maximum is 5 million per sponsor. I just wanted to note that you should submit a separate intake and application for each property, but combined, though we want to share the benefit of this resource around. And so per sponsor, it will be a $5 million maximum. And as I covered earlier, the program cap is 35 million currently based on legislative appropriation, and we do have those set asides that are good for the first 6 months of the program. And lastly, ORCA intakes open October 8th. I just want to let you know that we are aiming to really move expeditiously with this. We're trying to, of course, be fair about our intakes and our application review. So we will pool intakes and at least once per week open work centers all at once for those who can move forward. After that, your application is reviewed once it's considered fully complete. So reviewed on a first completed basis. And we timestamp that, and then we move along. We do have a 30-day review period, and we have a goal of a 60-day to close. Now, we know that some lenders and their loan committees might meet on a schedule that makes that go longer, and that's fine. But just know that we're committed to trying to move fast on these in response to the need that you have. That is all I think I have time for on PSI today. I'm told that because we have a full agenda, we can I can take questions in the chat. And if I don't have an immediate answer, I certainly will reply by email. I also wanted to let you know that once the ORCA opens, you can submit questions. Use the ORCA portal for the FAQs, and we will assign the questions to various PSI team members who are reviewing applications to get back to you as soon as we can. The technical advisors are also equipped with understanding how our PSI has been updated and changed, and are, I'm sure, happy to speak with you more. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah, we'll put the link in the chat for those who maybe aren't aware of where the ORCA Get Help page is and the portal. We'll put that in the chat here momentarily. And we can also drop a link, I'm sorry, the technical advisor email in the chat as well. So yeah, and please ask your questions in the chat or raise your hand. We'll just move along here with a connected topic, which is OAHTCs. And so we'll talk about legislative implementation for the new pass-through exemption. Mitch?
Thanks, Kim. Hi, everyone. Mitch Hanoush. I usually am front up. I'm the senior policy analyst on the affordable rental housing team, filling in for Martin for this real quick. Very easy job because I think Heather just covered a ton of the kind of specifics about how we're hoping to launch this initially. Timeline-wise, we're trying to align with PSI in terms of early October, and in terms of what the metrics will be for the update. I think we're hoping we can align with most of what we have with the PSI framework as well that Heather just presented to you. So just to backtrack from that, House Bill 2087 from the last legislative session expanded pass-through exemptions to a new group of projects that we have not had as an eligible pass-through exempt type of project before, and it was defined as physical or financial distress as sort of the indicator for that. Pass-through is what the savings are from a loan interest savings rate that you get through the OHTC program, and those typically have to be passed through in the form of reduced rents to tenants, with some exceptions. Adding this as an exception means we can provide loans to projects and sponsors that are experiencing financial distress, and they do not have to pass through those savings from the reduced interest rate in the form of tenant rents. So rolling that out, OHCC is a very different resource from PSI, but in terms of the types of projects that we're going to be targeting, we think it aligns pretty well with our goals there and with some of the kind of framework pieces that Heather laid out. This will also be through the ORCA. We have the OHCC only pathway that we've allowed folks to use in the past. If you're applying for this exclusively, if you are trying to connect to other resources, you would go through sort of the standard ORCA process as well. Yeah, here for questions for anyone. I'll do my best to answer them. And as Heather mentioned, throw them in the chat. We can try to get something for you and can connect you to myself or Martin or anyone else involved in OHTC.
Thanks, Mitch. Yeah, and we do have a few questions in the chat. One is, did you share that OHCS PIPs are not a requirement for the PSI eligibility criteria? Oh, yes, that is correct. We answered that. Thank you. Will a technical advisory be out? Yes. Okay. And I got a private message with a question: if we already applied prior to guidance being issued, will we need to reapply on 10/8, or will our intakes previously submitted be utilized?
I can come off mute to answer that. We did draw a line between the prior criteria for PSI and intakes that had not progressed or had an application fee or really had not progressed, have been closed. Work centers have been closed, and interested applicants should submit a new intake. on October 8th when it opens.
Thanks, Heather. And I see Mary Rain has her hand raised.
I do. Thank you so much. Mitch, I may have missed it, but with the OHTC pass-through exemption option, is that something that we should indicate in our ORCA PSI application that we're interested in, or it's going to be a determination that OHCS staff is making as you review, and then you will let us know if we are eligible for? Just wondering how much we need to sort of look into that in advance.
Yeah, good question. I think we would want your indication that it's something you're interested in, just given the kind of need for multiple parties at the table for OHTC and just sort of awareness that that is something, you need to be working with your lender on as well. And it's harder for us to just give you that award. So it needs a little more buy-in, I think, from the project sponsor. But we also are willing to work with folks potentially if we get to a point where we're oversubscribed with PSI, but the project makes more sense with OHTC or makes some sense with OHTC, and that can help support it. I think we want to be able to work with you all on sort of putting the puzzle pieces together to try to help support your projects. And OHTC could be a really valuable tool in that regard because we're less oversubscribed with that resource than many others.
Okay, so as we're doing the PSI application, there will be a place for us to indicate that we are interested in
Yeah,
the
I think just in the intake form, I think just
Okay,
I would mark OHCC as something that you are interested in.
great, thank you.
Yep.
Great. And let's see, we have another some questions about the ORCA recommendations going to Housing Stability Council. And I was under the impression that all of the recommended 9% LIHTC projects would be presented at this HSC. Why are there only 2 9% projects? When will the remaining 9% projects move forward?
I can answer to that. The rest of the 9% it is our plan that will take them in November. If you don't see them all this month, it's likely that some of them are working through the processes, or in some cases there could be some remaining questions that the developer, the consultant haven't answered, and we're waiting for some of that to finalize the reviews. But it's our plan, it's our intent to take them in November.
All right, thank you, Roberto. And then let's see, we have another question. I know, let's see, we are sorry, apologies if I missed your opening remarks, but I believe the LIFT 25-27 gap resource, is it now fully subscribed? Is the question that I just butchered from Mary Rain in the chat. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yes, for most of all of the set-asides, with the exception of the set-aside for cultural specifics, but we're fully subscribed for the other set-asides, Portland, metro, urban, rural, yeah, unfortunately. But for the cultural specific set-asides, even though our wait list may show that there's still funding remain, we are reviewing applications that will likely deplete or fully subscribe with that as well. I think last time I might have mentioned, and if not, but it's likely that by November, most of our funding for the 25-27 that we got have been spoken for or will be fully subscribed.
Great, and I'm putting the link in the chat to the waitlist and available resources. These documents are updated after each Housing Stability Council meeting. So the documents that you see now will be updated after Housing Stability Council approvals are made on this upcoming Friday. So it's typically about a week after Housing Stability Council when these documents are updated on our website. Okay, and I think we had a question about from Andrea, will projects struggling to convert be eligible under this OHTC criteria for the pass-through exemption? Projects that are at risk of default on a construction loan with no extensions left. And that is a question that we might need to get back to you on, or make sure that we have some clarity in an FAQ about that particular question, unless Roberto, are you?
Well, I was just going to say that if the OHTCs were approved under different criteria, meaning that they're not, there's no exemption for pass-through, would be hard to, I guess, justify how we want to reverse that now. So if so I think we need to look at that, but just as, I guess, in my thinking is that no, because we would have not approved and the structure of financing would have been different when we allocated those OHTCs would have been for new construction, I'm assuming, because that's what the conversion issue there seems to be.
Sorry, I'm struggling to find my raise hand, but no, the project does not have OHTCs on it.
Or doesn't from the beginning.
It does not.
But it's a new construction, right?
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
And so what is needed is a funding gap, sounds like it, in order to complete this conversion.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We need to lower rents. It's, part of the whole dynamic within the Portland metropolitan area of projects that, were expected to be rented at 60% AMI,
Mhm.
and are not. So, and I don't want to take up any more time, but I think it is if OHCS could just get back to us about if this type of project would be eligible under this exemption or not.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we can get back to you. I mean, we have used OHTCs before to fill funding gaps where conversion is an issue, but not with the exemption of for pass-through. But we can get back with more specifics to you. But where I am now, like I said, we've used it for funding gap, but not with this waiving the pass-through. This pass-through, it seems to me that it's really tied to the legislation that allows us to use for the portfolio stabilization investment. That's the main focus of it there.
Great questions. Thank you all. We are going to move back to our last legislative implementation topic on our agenda today, which is related to the PUSH program. Please continue to ask questions in the chat or raise your hand as we cover this topic as well. And I'll turn it over to Cassie.
Thanks, Kim. Hello, everyone. My name is Cassie Clark, and I am the Publicly Supported Housing Contract Preservation Manager. We refer to this program as PUSH CP. And just as a reminder, this is a state-mandated notification and purchase process to help preserve housing when publicly supported contracts are set to expire. I just wanted to update you on recent legislative changes from the 2025 session. We had two bills related to PUSH CP. So Senate Bill 973 was passed to improve communication transparency for tenants living in publicly supported affordable housing when that housing may stop being affordable or has expiring affordability restrictions in the future. So some key points to take away is that property owners must notify tenants earlier when affordability restrictions on a property are ending. They're currently required to notify tenants 20 months from affordability expiration. However, this bill, starting in July 1 of 2028, will require a 30-month notification process for tenants. Property owners must post notices in a public place on the property and send notices by first-class mail to tenants and to OHCS. There are new tenant protections or new tenant and applicant protections as well. So starting in January of 2026, all landlords must notify all new tenants and prospective tenants of the earliest date the affordability restrictions might end. This notice must come before charging an application fee or signing a lease. There are also language access requirements. OHCS has created 2 tenant notice templates that we were required to translate into Oregon's 5 most commonly spoken non-English languages. OHCS has chosen to translate the notices into Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, Russian, Korean, and German. And again, starting July 1, 2028, if a landlord fails to give proper notice on the tenant notice in that push period, the termination date of affordability must be extended at least 30 months instead of the 20 months, which is now until from when a correct notice is finally given. So that was Senate Bill 973. Senate Bill 32 requires OHCS to post publicly supported housing data on our OHCS website. Just a reminder that we have OHI on our website as well, and that has been recently updated as well. We are publishing a 10-year from expiration forecast, and that is a subset pulled from OHI that includes these bullet points. So it has the expiration date of affordability restrictions, the number of units, the type and source of rental assistance, income eligibility requirements for tenants, and the status of those preservation efforts in that push period when we receive that notification. So again, this has just been recently published on our Push CP webpage, which I'll put a link in the chat. You're going to look for the Affordable Housing 10-year expiration forecast, which lists expiration dates of affordability restrictions coming up in the next 10 years. Next slide, Kim. Which is really just a reiteration of what I've just said, though. So again, there are 2 new tenant notices. I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of that. There's one for when you're in the tenant notice period, and that is 20 months now from expiration. You're required to provide that tenant notice, and we have that template on our website now. And then starting July 1, 2028, that will be extended to a 30-month. And then also this new and prospective tenant notice beginning this January that's requiring all new tenants, prospective tenants, before you're charged a screening fee or sign a lease, that they need to be provided this notice. So again, I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat, and just wanted to also mention that on November 19th at 2 p.m., I'll be hosting a Push CP technical assistance webinar, and would be happy to answer any questions you have then, or in the meantime, I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cassie. Great. And let's see, I think we did get a question in the chat. About the 15 million in preservation funds. Are those being allocated towards preservation? Oh, are we getting a response? Okay, look at this. Very timely response. So the question was about, for those who may be on the phone, 15 million in preservation funds, are those being allocated towards preservation 9% projects that applied in 2025? And the response is yes, a portion of the new funds will be rolled with remaining 23-25 funds to move forward 3 9% preservation projects. There's also funding being held out for 2026 9% LIHTC. Depending on resource availability, we would direct other funds to be available as gap for 4% after that time. So thank you. Great questions, everyone. Looks like we have another one that came in the chat here about preservation. And we'll see if we can answer that as well. Where did it go? The team is doing a great job of answering in the chat. Thank you.
Pam, do you want me to answer that
Yes,
live?
thank you. That'd be great.
Are you talking about yes, from Mel?
Yes.
So 35 million is available for PSI and the set asides. Correct. They do only total 25 million, 20 million for nonprofit organizations and 5 million for culturally specific organizations. So that means the remaining funds are not a set aside and generally available to apply for if you are not a CSO or a nonprofit. Certainly that other 10 million is available for general application under the same PSI criteria.
Thank you, Heather. Great. Okay, well, we are about wrapping it up here. Just a few reminders on the next slide about upcoming technical advisories. So on or near October 1st, just in a few days, technical advisory with information about property stabilization investments, OHTC, push capacity building, and the new PAB policy, the 25% test. So that will be a very robust technical advisory that you will find in your inbox again later this week with most of the things that we covered today. So you'll be able to click on links and find the more detailed information on our website when you receive that technical advisory. And as Kim Ye mentioned earlier, the October 7th, there will be a capacity building grants informational webinar, and that you will also find in the technical advisory. So the link to sign up for that webinar will be available through that communication as well. And on November 19th, as Cassie mentioned, there will be the Push CP Technical Assistance webinar that you can also sign up for as well. And our next partner call is slated for November 3rd at 3 p.m. And I'll just pause for any remaining questions or maybe things that we missed. Roberto, if you have any other remaining items to share today before we close out.
No, not other than the ones that we've gone over, but just again, thank you for joining us every month. I know this, yeah, I'm glad it's on your calendars, and there's always a lot going on between between each call. So we appreciate you again making time and hearing us out or asking your questions. Keep in mind that this is not the only forum that you can ask questions. I think we have various entryways, the technical advisors, or through the ORCA if you've got active applications or you're just curious about how that works. So I think there are different ways that you can reach out to us. So I just want to make sure again that thank you, that this is not the only one, and we hope to see you in November right?
Yep, November 3rd.
Okay, all right, thank you. When is the next one? Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, thank you all. And these meetings are recorded and posted on our ARH Partner Call webpage. If you don't have a link to that, it's really simple. Just type in Google ARH partner calls, and you will find that those pop up, and you'll be able to access the recordings as well. And don't hesitate to reach out. As Roberto said, if you have questions or need information, you can use the Oracle portal, technical advisors, or others to get the information that you need. So thank you all, and we will see you in November.